me of your name one more time.
Dick Dynamite.
Stylized World War II ultra-violence. That's what you'll get with this movie, Dick Dynamite, 1944, written and directed by Robbie Davidson. And have you seen the movie Commando Ninja? If the answer is yes, and you've got a good idea about what this movie is all about. It's a comical, over-the-top, violent, sort of B-movie actioner, science fiction, horror elements all in there. What's the story? So it focuses on Dick Dynamite, who is a hard-nosed GI who is taken out of jail and sent on a deadly mission with a group of ragtag other specialists to try and defeat a secret Nazi plan where they have built a long-range aerial vehicle that will deliver a deadly bomb that will turn people into zombies. And it's up to our group of heroes to face down the Nazi menace, including zombies, Nazi ninjas, all sorts of difficulties, and to try and come up victorious. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So, yes, Commando Ninja, very much in the style of that movie. Over the top, satirical, lots of kind of pop culture references, quite kind of silly and goofy, knowingly so and deliberately so. If you haven't seen Commando Ninja, possibly like something along the lines of Sky Shark, so it's not quite as fantastical as that. So quite a spoofy movie. So it's comedic in its nature, and obviously that's going to be a taste issue. So not really a critique, but I do feel this movie is going to appeal to some and not others purely because of its tonal choices. It's very over the top, very sort of politically incorrect, loads of ultra violence, a hell of a lot of swearing. So does that sound appealing to you? Because if the answer is no, then you may as well stop the review right now, because this movie has got all of that in spades. But if the answer is yes, let's talk about what does work with this movie. Now, this was a crowd-funded film, and it's clearly a passion project from everyone involved here. And I'll say this, there seems to be a lot of people involved. Considering this is a crowd-funded project, there is a surprising amount of extras involved here. There's a good amount of different locations, some of which I have to say look pretty good. And even things like the kind of the production design, the props, things like this, using this kind of over-the-top Nazi regalia. I mean, again, another reference you might want to level at this is maybe like the Wolfenstein style, property. So it all looks like there's been an amount of effort put into this movie, despite it being clearly a very, very low budget affair. If you like your violence, there is a very high body count here with lots of kind of practical, kind of comedic gore is the best way I would describe it. The gore and kind of the blood splats here, they're very much over the top and not realistic, and as I say, quite sort of almost comedic in a way. And it's taking homage from action movies of yesterday, from the 80s and things like that, very much like the aforementioned Ninja Commando. Loads of kind of like bad guys getting mown down by fields of machine gun fire, things like that. As I say, we've got ninja, zombies, science fiction ideas here. So there's a lot of kind of ingredients to the stew, so to speak. So it definitely has a lot going on screen, and it's never a movie where it stops for too long without having an action sequence just kind of round the corner. And all of the violence is very kind of over the top and sort of comical at the same time. There's lots of over the top characters, all with very sort of overblown sort of character traits and performances here. Again, this might be a somewhat of a taste issue, to be honest. But yeah, everyone here is very kind of broad, and you know, we've got our daring and good guys, our dastardly bad guys, but there are some kind of like sequences here. I would even say that sometimes our good guys seem a little bit on the kind of the shady side, to be honest. The movie is a lot of fun. As I say, it's never taking itself seriously. There is a lot of kind of set pieces, a lot of moving parts here, and some kind of pretty good sort of stunt work and VFX, considering the kind of the low budget here. You know, lots of explosions and squibs and things like that. It looks like they might have used like paintballs or something to achieve the effect here for these kind of explosions, you know, bloody explosions and things. So yeah, it's pretty fast paced and it never really slows down. I do think the movie isn't as strong as Ninja Commando, however. What I think Ninja Commando had, and again this is somewhat of an obscure movie that I feel some people won't have seen, but that had a little bit more of charisma to it, and that's the main thing where I feel this movie lacks. The Dick Dynamite character is a kind of a meathead lunk, and I don't really feel he's a particularly kind of fun character. He's just, you know, he's a kick-ass kind of like big guy, but I don't really feel like he has much going on. He's clearly meant to be aping like an Arnold Schwarzenegger style sort of character. He's even got kind of an Austrian accent, but you never really feel like he amounts to much in regards to characters. And to a degree that is true of some of the other characters. So I think who does the best here is probably our main Nazi bad guy, who I would say gets the most charisma from his performance, and as such is probably the most memorable character in the film. The film possibly has too many characters, I would say. I mean, we get like they even say a dirty half dozen. There's like a team of you know, commandos that are sent in, and then we get a couple more as the film goes on, and then we have this raft of kind of Nazi characters as well. And to be honest with you, they kind of just, even though the characters are quite broad, they just sort of aren't particularly memorable. I mean, they're sort of over the top and very loud, but as I say, outside of maybe a couple, I would say that the main Nazi guy, and there's like a kind of photographer who's like the kind of like the more of a passive character on the Allied side, are probably the most memorable characters. But everyone else, including Dick Dynamite, I have to say really doesn't kind of stick in the memory. They're pretty bland. There's not really much kind of going on outside of some kind of fun visuals, and some of them are so forgettable you'll kind of forget that they're even there. Now, this movie is very low budget, and although I can appreciate the level of production and effects based on this budget, I think if you are a general audience, you'd probably think this movie is kind of like trashy looking. I watch a lot of low budget movies, as if you're familiar with this channel, but I think for the most part the movie's cheaper sort of aesthetic might put people off. As well as I think there are some decisions here, like so much swearing. I mean, it's not really anything I remember ever complaining about before, but there's so much here. It gets to the point where it's not even like it's a joke in the movie. There's just so much. It's just almost a little bit distracting, where literally in some sequences, every other word is an F-bomb. It just seems somewhat kind of unnecessary and somewhat like, let's have like as many like swear words as we possibly can to fill the kind of the runtime, and thus making it certainly a very, you know, R-rated movie and whatever you want to call it. But it just seems over the top and unnecessary at times. I do think that because of the lack of sort of characterization in the movie's sort of quieter moments, of which, you know, it doesn't last too long, but you don't really care. You don't really care about the kind of the characters and stuff like that. It never really grasps you as that a gripping story, I don't think, because I think the character work here, they've not done the work on making interesting characters. Now I get this, it's meant to be a spoof, a parody, a comedy, but you can still do that within the context of that style of movie. It's not just relegated. Having good characters isn't just relegated to serious dramas or things like that. You can still have interesting characters in a comedy, but this one doesn't do that. And as such, it almost seems quite shallow. So that being said, obviously for pure spectacle, for over-the-top violence, I think you can enjoy this on a very sort of surface level, and just look at the carnage on screen and enjoy it for what it is. Low-budget actions, Nazi zombies and soldiers, firefights, fistfights, all kind of gloriously over the top and quite silly. I never feel it's particularly funny though, I have to say. The jokes really are, for me at least, didn't quite land. But it's gloriously over the top, so it's a real dichotomy in regards to how to rate this one. I'll put it right down the middle and say a 5 out of 10. It's a fun watch if you are in that mindset and you appreciate that sort of type of film, but I do think it kind of lacks the charm that it could have had if I think it had been a little bit more balanced. 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.